Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The Illinois House yesterday, in its infinite wisdom, Marxist dominated, passed a bill that would prohibit libraries from, quote, banning books or other material, unquote, because of partisan or doctrinal pressure. This sponsored by Anastasia Murray from Naperville, who's a communist lunatic. And it's an initiative of the Secretary of State, Ali Giannoulias. How it would work is, as a condition of qualifying for state grants, libraries or library systems would have to adopt a written policy prohibiting the practice of banning books. Alternatively, they could adopt the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights. This is another leftist organization, new Marxist dominated, like our General Assembly, which includes a statement: material should not be proscribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. We need to address this misnomer that's used by the actual censors, the censorious left, the new Marxists. Choosing not to have porn in your school library is not banning anything.
No.
It's not banning books. Obviously, every library doesn't have every periodical or book under the sun in it. So you make choices. Nobody is saying that these books should be prohibited from being published. Nobody is burning them in the on the playground. Maybe they should be, but they're not. That's not the point. The point is to say, when you make choices, because you have discretion when you do things like decide curriculum or decide what's available for students in the library, that you choose one thing, and that may mean you don't choose another. And by the way, I'd love to go through the libraries and apply legislation like this in the other direction. Let me see how many books they have from Thomas Sowell in the economics section at these libraries. Why don't you have Thomas Sowell in here? Why don't you have Inside American Higher Education in here from Thomas Sowell in the higher ed section? For it, just use him as an example. Milton Friedman's Capitalism and Freedom. Where's that? Well, are you not including it in the library for partisan or doctrinal reasons? It is not banning books any more than the Florida law that they have misnomered as "don't say gay" is about not saying gay. Oh, and by the way, since we're talking about Ali G, Arnie Duncan 2.0, who Peter principled his way to an office that doesn't interfere with his enjoyment that he derives from living the high life off taxpayers who bailed out his family's failed mob bank. That Ali G. And that's Illinois. That's the state we chose to make it what it is, which is a disgrace with people like Ali G, these room temperature dopes. Arnie Duncan 2.0.
Yeah, he's using it to become governor someday.
Yeah, well, he may be just dumb enough to become governor of Illinois. We'll find out. For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined by Karol Markowicz, columnist for the New York Post and co-author of Stolen Youth, How Radicals Are Erasing Innocence and Indoctrinating a Generation. Karol, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. Happy to be on with you.
So this whole move that, Florida is moving to expand their curriculum choices when it comes to what is and will not be taught in particular grades. Yeah. And then you have legislation like we were just describing here in Illinois that characterizes anything any pushback against, porn for K through third graders as book banning.
Right. It's ridiculous. And, I live in Florida. When the parental rights and education law became a law, the main complaint that most parents I know had was, why does it stop in third grade? How come just till third grade? I have a fourth grader. I don't want him being taught gender ideology in school. So the idea that, that this is somehow unpopular or that parents don't want this is ridiculous. All parents want this, left and right.
Yes, but you're still seeing a subordination by some to a subordination of that desire that you're describing to the politics of the particular school, of the school board. I mean,
Yes.
we always have this sense that the majority, is sensible, but then you look at who's in charge of these institutions, and it's hard to square that.
Right. Well, our book Stolen Youth is essentially about this concept. We go through a lot about how leftism is deeply unpopular in America, and yet these woke people have captured our institutions and organizations and schools, and they're in charge, and they're a tiny, tiny minority of the country. I like to quote that only 7% of the country considers themselves very liberal, and when you get down to like real leftist wokeness, that number's even lower. So they've managed to convince people that just because they're loud, they're the majority, and they're not. And even in liberal school districts, even in leftist areas, in blue areas, parents talk to me all the time about how they're beating back a lot of the proposals, and how they're managing to do this is talking to one person at a time and saying, like, hey, did you see that this is being shown in our kid's school? And the parent will almost always be shocked because they thought that they could trust their school. They thought that they could trust the board or whoever's making the decisions about what's being shown in the school, and then they're discovering that they can't. And I'm telling you that I'm watching this discovery happen not just among conservatives or moderates, but among liberals who are stunned that their kids are being shown things that are way inappropriate for their age level.
And this is pornography. I mean, if somebody on the street showed a kid that, I would probably be arrested.
Right. Well, that's the funny thing. You can't read. People are taking these books to school board meetings and reading them aloud, and the school board, are saying you can't read this out loud. Well, if you can't read it out loud, it shouldn't be in the school library.
The other thing too, this points up, and what your book does as well, is for people, and because this is an issue that crosses sort of the partisan divide too, which is school choice, opportunity scholarships. It's been led by Democrats and Republicans, and the combination of the two. But there was a good piece last month by Professor Eric Hoffman from University College London in the Manhattan Institute, arguing, based on a lot of what you're describing, that school choice is not enough. School choice competition is good at the K through 12 level, but when you have, but they're running a parallel track, the teachers' unions and the new Marxists, and so they're in the same pernicious ideologies that are attempting to be indoctrinated in K through 12 government school systems. Same things happening at elite schools, and so you're running out of choices if you think that you can just escape to a Catholic school or an elite private school, and you'll get away from what's happening at the government schools.
This is something I talk about all the time because I think that Republicans love an easy solution. And school choice, while not easy in bluer places, it seems to them like, okay, I'll vote for school choice and I'm done here. Well, that's just the beginning. The idea that if we get to school choice, even in so many areas, that will make a marked difference, I'm not so sure. I love school choice. I want school choice. I think that every kid should have the option of opting out of their failing school that they're stuck in just because of their zip code. But I talk to people who run charter school networks. I talk to people who have, lead private schools. And what they'll tell me is we run wait lists of 500, 1,000 people, and there are just not enough options. Maybe when we get to having enough options for all the kids and we can ensure that woke nonsense isn't being taught in these schools, that will be, a great solution. But in the meantime, we have to fight for the public schools, or we're damning a generation of children to this insanity. Most kids go to their local public school. Most kids across the country go to the local public school. So we have to make sure that local public school is an actual school and not an indoctrination center.
And the new thing that's coming up, and I couldn't believe this, but I saw you on Fox News with Martha McCallan, and 4-day school weeks. And there's 59 school districts in Texas that are currently doing it. They either give the kids Friday off or Monday off, so that, of course, they need a 3-day weekend, right, Karol?
Yeah, it's crazy. And what's really crazy to me is that we've decoupled schooling from childcare. Like during the pandemic, the teachers' unions were like, "Oh, you just want childcare." Well, yeah, I want my kids cared for while I work. That used to be the deal that we made with public schools. And the idea that parents still have to work 5 days a week, but kids are now going to school 4 days a week, like I mean, the concept of checking your privilege that the left has, like, check your privilege if you think that this is okay, because it's really not.
You talked about some center left, more traditional liberals that are not completely off the reservation are revolting. We saw this in Northern Virginia in the run up to the Youngkin election. So that's definitely happening in some places. What about inside the system? Do you see any evidence that center-left teachers, center-left administrators are pushing back within the system to try to exercise some discretion that is otherwise not being exercised?
I hear from teachers, but I have to say I haven't heard from many administrators. There's a lot of teachers who write to me and say, I don't allow this to go on in my classroom. I don't listen to the administration when they try to make me hide things that are not on the curriculum. So the teacher will say, I send the curriculum to the parents, I let them know what I'll be teaching, but the administration will say to me, okay, but put in this sex ed class, for kindergartners in December when parents aren't really paying attention. And I have teachers who write to me and say, I'm not going to do that. But administrators, I feel like we really need to fight back against the administrative class, because they really have this leftist virus has really captured that group of people. And as we trace in stolen youth, this begins in teachers' colleges. They're learning Marxist concepts in teachers' colleges that they then go and spread throughout the country. So the teachers themselves are being indoctrinated, and the administrators and the principals and all of them. So it's going to take a really tough fight, and the idea that we could just end this with school choice is just, it's not plausible.
She is Karol Markowicz, columnist for the New York Post and co-author of Stolen Youth, How Radicals Are Erasing Innocence and Indoctrinating a Generation. Karol, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, and she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The best way to protect yourself from inflation, hyperinflation,